At the border dividing India and Pakistan, an invisible line carries absolute authority. A single unauthorized step across this rigid division is treated as a major offense, capable of triggering an immediate international conflict. This severe response to crossing a line isn't just about geopolitics. It's a concept foundational to how we design nearly every physical system meant to ensure human safety. High-voltage infrastructure uses explicit, non-negotiable boundaries to prevent catastrophe. The warning of 25,000 volts and the display of a skull and crossbones establish a perimeter where crossing the limit results in instant death. This is the practical logic found in ancient wisdom. The Book of Ecclesiastes points out that when a person breaks through an established boundary wall, they shouldn't be surprised when the snakes living inside it bite back. Human curiosity and ego often drive us to see how far we can push past these markers. But these boundaries aren't there to limit us. They exist to keep the systems we depend on from collapsing. You can see this system design at play in the historical account of the Garden of Eden. It was presented as a frictionless environment where every human need was met and every resource was perfectly arranged. Even in that perfect setting, the system relied on a single, absolute boundary. The moment that specific line was crossed, the integrity of the entire environment was compromised, leading to a total systemic failure. To address this failure, a restorative architecture known as the New Covenant was introduced. This framework functions as a way to re-establish those vital internal limits, aiming to return a community to a state of peace by teaching its members how to live within their assigned roles. To understand how this restorative system actually works in practice, we have to look at a biological machine where individual parts strictly obey their limits: human anatomy. The structure of a healthy community maps directly onto the architecture of the human body. Every organ and every cell has a highly specific jurisdiction that it never leaves. Consider what happens during a localized crisis. A sharp physical anomaly, like a thorn, pierces a big toe, creating an immediate signal of distress. The pain signal travels a dedicated pathway, from the toe up the spinal cord to the head. The brain immediately processes the threat and dispatches an order down a different branch, telling the hand to extract the thorn. This defense mechanism only works because the parts are interconnected but distinct. The hand doesn't try to feel the pain, and the toe doesn't reach for the thorn. They accept their biological limits to save the whole body. But imagine a nightmare scenario where these organs suddenly reject their boundaries, a surreal thought experiment where the parts decide they are tired of their specific roles. It starts with the eyes deciding they no longer want to see but digest food instead. The chaos spreads to the mouth. It stops speaking and eating, demanding that it be the part of the body that processes sight. The breaking point occurs in the respiratory system. The nose decides that instead of the invisible, repetitive task of breathing, it would rather spend its time tasting a complex meal like biryani. The consequence is immediate. Without the nose performing its designated function, the oxygen supply cuts off, and the entire organism dies within seconds. In this scenario, the system wasn't taken down by an outside force. It was destroyed from within because its components refused to operate within their designed parameters. This biological reality applies directly to families and communities. Every group functions as a living organism, where survival depends on individuals performing specialized, often invisible tasks. Within a community, some people act as the nose, those whose specific grace is the quiet work of prayer, mediation, and breathing life back into the group when things get tense. A cascading failure begins when an individual abandons that vital role because they desire the more visible or prestigious function of a different organ. When one subsystem stops performing its designated task to chase another, the entire community begins to suffocate, losing the very thing that kept it healthy. Systemic stability returns when each person identifies their specific grace and remains within the parameters of their assigned role in the body. Staying within these boundaries provides the structural integrity required for the entire group to survive. When each part stays in its place, the body remains alive.